This is Bone Chillers to disturb your dreams. Dare to join us? Click subscribe, ring the bell. But remember, we cannot guarantee your safety from the nightmares that await. Prepare to be thrilled, chilled, and filled with a sense of dread you'll find nowhere else. Welcome to the darkness. We've been waiting.
The Cursed Lullaby. When Thomas Miller, a seasoned antiquarian, came across an ancient, faded song sheet wedged in the dusty pages of a centuries-old manuscript, he was intrigued. It was titled, The Lullaby of Foresight. Etched in beautiful but antiquated handwriting, the lullaby promised untold wisdom and foresight to the child who heard it. It was an enticing find. Something his young daughter, Emily, would find enchanting. His wife, Abigail, had been an ethnomusicologist, studying and collecting lullabies from around the world. She had passed away tragically a year ago, leaving Thomas and Emily alone. The memory of her singing to Emily still echoed in their home. When Thomas found the lullaby, he felt a pang of melancholy. He decided to honor Abigail by singing this newfound song to Emily. The moon bathed the room in a spectral glow as Thomas gently rocked Emily in his arms, his eyes scanning the ancient lyrics. He began to sing, his voice cracking slightly with emotion. The song was hauntingly beautiful, and Emily, entranced, drifted into a peaceful sleep. A moment later, the tranquility shattered. A chilly wind swept across the room, extinguishing the bedside lamp. The room descended into an eerie darkness. Suddenly, a sinister figure materialized in the corner of the room. It was Abigail, but not as Thomas remembered her. She was horrific, twisted into a demonic entity, her eyes glowing with a malevolent red light. Abigail. Thomas stammered, his heart pounding in his chest. But the entity lunged at him, snatching Emily from his arms. Thomas fell back, terror freezing him to his core. He could only watch as the demonic figure cradled Emily, singing the same ancient lullaby in a guttural, horrifying voice. Emily, surprisingly, slept on, oblivious to the horror around her. Thomas scrambled to his feet, desperately reaching out for Emily. But Abigail's form shifted, her arms extending into grotesque, claw-like appendages, keeping him at bay. "You will not touch her," she growled. "But, she's my daughter," Thomas protested, fear mingling with a father's desperation. "I would never harm her. Every soul that breathes in this world poses a danger to her," Abigail's demonic voice echoed. "I shall protect her from it all." Weeks turned into months. Abigail's demonic form never left Emily's side, and the house grew gloomy and silent. Friends and relatives stopped visiting, unnerved by the strange atmosphere. Emily, now under the constant vigil of the demon, grew pale and silent, the spark in her eyes gradually fading. Desperate, Thomas returned to the manuscript, praying for a solution. He scoured it for days, fueled by determination and despair. His efforts finally paid off when he found a hidden footnote, missed in his initial excitement. It revealed the curse of the lullaby. Only the pure love of the father can break the curse and banish the protector demon. Mustering his courage, Thomas approached the entity. "I love Emily," he declared, looking into the demon's glowing eyes. "As her father, I'll protect her from harm, but also give her the freedom she needs to live. Your protection is suffocating her. You need to let her go, Abigail." The room filled with an eerie silence. The demon's eyes flickered, and for a moment, Thomas thought he saw a glimmer of the woman he loved in them. The demon trembled, and then, with a deafening scream, it disintegrated, leaving behind a cloud of black smoke that quickly faded. Emotion choked Thomas as he held Emily tightly in his arms, her sleepy eyes fluttering open. "Daddy," she murmured, her voice a comforting whisper in the silent room. "Yes, my dear, it's just us now," he replied, his voice filled with relief and love. From that night onward, the cursed lullaby lay forgotten, a haunting reminder of their terrifying ordeal. But the lessons it taught were engraved deep within their hearts. Love was a stronger protector than any demon, and true protection wasn't stifling, but but liberating. Lucy's Halloween. Once upon a dreary mid-October, in the sleepy little town of Hemlock Hollow, 10-year-old Lucy Bright was in a peculiar mood. It was nearly Halloween, her most cherished holiday. In preparation, she had embarked on the ambitious task of creating her own unique mask, something terrifying that would inspire fear and awe amongst her friends. Lucy gathered materials from around her house, some glue, leftover craft paper, paints, and a brilliant idea struck her. She decided to add a personal touch to her creation. Swiftly she grabbed a pair of scissors and snipped off a small lock of her own curly auburn hair. She carefully glued it onto her mask, creating a grotesque crown. By the time the mask was complete, it had transformed into a monstrosity, with bulging papermake eyes, a contorted grin full of paper teeth, and her hair set ominously on the top. It was perfect. That night, as Lucy went to sleep, her dreams were filled with excited thoughts of Halloween. As she dreamt, an unnatural pulse began to emanate from the mask, pulsing rhythmically with a life of its own. In the morning, Lucy found her mask had changed. The paint appeared darker, the eyes seemed more menacing, and the lock of her hair seemed to bristle with an unnatural energy. It was no longer just a mask, it had taken a sinister life of its own. The paper teeth seemed to form a wide, cruel grin, a terrifying sight that sent chills down Lucy's spine. However, attributing this to her wild imagination, Lucy shrugged it off. As the day wore on, the mask started whispering to her in a low, guttural voice, promising her extraordinary things, candy, toys, and even better grades. But for every favor, it demanded time that Lucy would wear it. Seeing no harm, Lucy began to indulge the mask, wearing it for a few minutes every day. Every moment the mask spent on Lucy's face, it began to control her more and more, casting a shadow over her vibrant personality. It whispered darker things into her ears, spoke of power and control. Lucy, by now terrified, tried to throw away the mask, but it would always reappear, its papery grin wider and more threatening. One night, as Lucy sat huddled under her covers, the mask spoke again, its voice cold and menacing. "It's time, Lucy. Time for me to truly live," it rasped. Suddenly, Lucy felt her hair stand on end, her heart hammering in her chest. The next morning, Lucy's mother found her bedroom door locked. No matter how much she knocked and pleaded, there was no response. Inside, Lucy was paralyzed with fear, the mask floating before her, its papermake eyes glowing ominously. It advanced on her, its hair standing on end as though electrified, its paper teeth gnashing in anticipation. Terrified, Lucy began to cry, each tear hitting the floor like a solemn drumbeat. It was then she remembered an old nursery rhyme her grandmother had taught her, a song said to ward off evil spirits. With no other hope, Lucy began to sing, her voice trembling but growing stronger with each word. The mask twitched, its glow dimming slightly. Encouraged, Lucy sang louder, pouring all her fear and defiance into the melody. The mask shuddered violently, its hold on her room wavering. With one final note, Lucy finished the song, her voice echoing in the silence. A terrifying shriek pierced the air, and the mask convulsed before going limp, falling onto the ground, an ordinary Halloween mask once more. Lucy, drained but victorious, picked up the mask. The once sinister eyes were just hollow openings, the wide grin, nothing more than a smeared paint job. When Lucy's mother finally broke open the door, she found her daughter standing in the middle of the room, a lifeless mask in her hand, and a determined look in her eyes. No one in Hemlock Hollow knew what really transpired that day, but from then on, Halloween in the town was a little less spooky, and homemade masks were notably absent, especially those featuring the wearer's hair. In the end, Lucy's terrifying encounter with her living Halloween mask became an unspoken cautionary tale, a chilling reminder of the thin line between innocent holiday fun and a dark reality that was better left untouched. What happened to Anna? In the quiet hamlet of Fox Hill, a solitary cloud of worry hung in the air. Little Anna, a 7-year-old ball of sunshine, had vanished. Last seen heading towards the towering, ancient forest that bordered the town, The whole community had joined in the search, praying fervently for her safe return. On the third day of Anna's disappearance, the grim autumn sun was sinking, throwing the forest into an ominous twilight. Robert and Marie, Anna's distraught parents, stumbled upon a concealed cave set within the forest's stony heart. Inside, they found Anna. She was sitting calmly on a damp rock, her face lit by an eerie, ghostly luminescence, and wearing a placid smile. But it was her eyes that froze them in their tracks. Once a brilliant blue, they were now an unnatural, glowing white. "Anna," Marie choked out, rushing forward to embrace her daughter. "I've been waiting, Mama." Anna's voice echoed hollowly in the cave. Her blank, white eyes never left her mother's face. Back in Fox Hill, the town breathed a collective sigh of relief. Anna was back, but she was different. Her laughter no longer rang out, her feet no longer scampered through the streets. Instead, she moved with an eerie grace, her white eyes revealing nothing. People started to whisper. The town's old legends surfaced, tales of the spectral forest creatures known as the White-Eyed. They were said to possess humans, bestowing upon them strange powers and an insatiable hunger for souls. As days slipped into weeks, bizarre occurrences began. Livestock fell ill, crops withered, and the once chatty birds fell eerily silent. People reported seeing Anna at these incidents, her white eyes glowing in the darkness. One night, a chill swept through Fox Hill. In the distance, a mournful wail echoed from the forest, chilling their bones. Fear-stricken, they found Anna in the town square, a circle of dead crows around her, their tiny eyes mirroring her white gaze. Desperate, the town's elder, Old Martha, consulted the forgotten records, discovering a dreadful truth. The White-Eyed could only be expelled by sacrificing a loved one's soul. The sacrifice, however, had to be willingly offered. In the hush of the night, Marie, with a heavy heart, stood at Anna's bedside, watching her sleep. The unnatural glow of her eyes permeated the darkness. With a tear-streaked face, she whispered, "I offer my soul for my daughter." As dawn broke, the villagers woke to a heartbreaking sight. Marie lay lifeless beside Anna. The child's eyes were closed, her peaceful face hinting at an innocence regained. When Anna's eyes fluttered open, her brilliant blue eyes met the stunned gaze of her father. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. There was a wisdom there, an age-old understanding. Anna was safe. Fox Hill breathed easily again. But no laughter echoed through its streets anymore. The shadow of a sacrifice too great hung heavily over the small hamlet. Every pair of eyes that met Anna's blue gaze seemed to echo her mother's sacrifice. And deep in the forest, in a forgotten cave, a mother's love lingered, lighting the darkness, watching over the town with glowing, white eyes. The spectral forest creatures knew better now. They wouldn't dare take what was so fiercely protected. After all, what could be scarier than the power of a mother's love turned into a protective curse? Hellish day at camp. The Bradford family was enjoying their annual camping trip in the remote forests of Maine. Michael and Lauren, the devoted parents, led their young children, Lily and Max, on a trail along the picturesque river. As they walked, the atmosphere filled with cheerful laughter. Suddenly, Max, an active and sprightly boy, tripped over a protruding tree root and fell into the dark river. Michael, without a moment's hesitation, plunged into the river after him. Lauren watched with bated breath as the swirling water hid her family from view. Miraculously, Max's tiny figure bobbed to the surface, gasping for breath. But there was no sign of Michael. The father had vanished into the river's gloom. Rushing to the edge, Lauren scooped Max from the cold water. She shivered at his touch, his skin was icy, alien. She looked into his face and recoiled. This wasn't her son. The boy had Max's features, but his eyes were vacant, his grin oddly wide. This wasn't the face of the cheerful boy she had known, this was the face of something else. Lauren attempted to cradle him, but as she touched his drenched body, an intense burning sensation erupted in her hands. She cried out, pulling her hands back, revealing raw, blistering skin. Max's too wide grin never faltered as he watched her, his vacant eyes glinting with an eerie, unknown light. Panicked, Lauren rushed Max back to the campsite, hoping Lily might recognize her brother. But Lily, usually so close to her brother, shrank away in fear. The boy was a stranger to them all. As night fell, the dark forest came alive with strange noises. The rustling leaves echoed whispers, and the hollow hoot of owls echoed like mournful cries. Max sat by the campfire, his pale skin illuminated by the flickering flames, his chilling grin still in place. Lauren and Lily huddled together in their tent, their breaths shallow in the cold forest night. Suddenly, Lauren jolted awake. She had heard something. A splash. She emerged from the tent, peering at the river. A figure staggered out from the water. It was Michael, drenched and gasping. Lauren cried out in relief and ran towards him, but he raised a hand to stop her. "Stay away," he warned, his voice a croak. He pointed a trembling finger towards Max, who was now standing by the fire, his eyes locked onto his father. "That's not our son." Lauren, shocked and relieved to see her husband, didn't notice Max until he started to laugh. It was a hollow sound that echoed off the trees, sending a chill down their spines. "Max?" Michael croaked. The boy's response was a cold, chilling laughter, his form starting to contort and ripple. His body grew taller, his grin wider, and his eyes glowed with an ominous light. The surrounding forest seemed to darken as a figure emerged from the boy's body, a figure that was not a boy. The entity towered over them, a grotesque smile etched across its face, its icy fingers still trailing remnants of the river water. It laughed again, a sound so bone-chilling it made the forest fall silent. "I am not Max," it hissed. "But I thank you for the vessel." Terror gripped Lauren and Michael as they realized the truth. Their son was gone, replaced by a horrifying entity from the dark river. And now, it was in their midst, ready to claim the rest of them. The forest seemed to close in around them as the chilling laughter of the river entity echoed through the night. As they clung to each other, they felt a terrifying certainty that they were no longer alone in these woods. They had released something horrifying, something ancient, and now, they were its prey. And somewhere in the silence that followed, a small splash echoed in the river, a chilling reminder of the price they paid for venturing into the unknown. Their little boy, Max, was lost in the dark water, and in his place, they had brought back a nightmare. The Senator's Secret. For years, Samuel Newton, a seasoned senator, harbored a dark secret. It was a secret that involved a mysterious woman with haunting eyes, the only other surviving member of his family, his sister, Eliza. She resided in the dusty attic of his grand Victorian mansion, unseen and unheard, her existence known only to him. Eliza hadn't always been so eerie. Once, she had been a lively, vibrant child, full of mischief and laughter. But everything changed the day their family home burned to the ground. She was the only one inside, and somehow, she emerged from the inferno untouched. But she wasn't the same. After the fire, Eliza was imbued with otherworldly powers and a frightening demeanor, frightening enough to compel Samuel to hide her away. One chilly July evening, a hushed tension loomed over the mansion. Samuel was to host a dinner for influential political elites, hoping to secure their support for his upcoming campaign. As his guests mingled in the opulent rooms below, Eliza remained locked upstairs, tucked away behind the padlocked attic door. The night was progressing smoothly, with Samuel orchestrating the crowd like a master conductor. But then, as he toasted to future prosperity, the room went icy cold. The glowing chandelier above began to swing, casting erratic shadows on the horrified faces below. The air crackled with a palpable energy, and an unvoiced panic spread among the guests. In that chilling moment, Samuel's thoughts raced to the attic. He excused himself and raced upstairs, his heart pounding. He fumbled with the key, unlocking the attic door. There, amidst the dust and shadows, sat Eliza. Her eyes glowed in the dim light, an eerie blue hue, and her hands were ablaze with dancing flames that didn't burn her. "Eliza, you must stop this," Samuel pleaded, his voice trembling. "They can't know about you." But Eliza just looked at him, her gaze piercing his soul. "Why not, Samuel?" she replied. Her voice was a whisper, yet it resonated through the entire house, causing the chandelier downstairs to shudder, the guests to gasp. Downstairs, the temperature dropped further, and the guests huddled together. Their breath fogged in the air, and the flames in the fireplace seemed to flicker with a ghostly blue hue. Samuel rushed back down, feigning ignorance, his mind whirling with fear. Suddenly, the grand piano began to play, a discordant melody that sounded like screams woven into notes. The room plunged into darkness, the guests screamed, and when the lights flickered back on, the words "Why hide me, dear brother," were etched into the frost that had formed on the grand mirror above the mantel. Rumors of haunted happenings in the Newton mansion spread like wildfire in the following weeks. Samuel, the esteemed senator, was now the central figure of a scandalous ghost story. His reputation tumbled, his political career derailed, and his mansion was avoided like a plague. Desperate, Samuel confronted Eliza. "Why are you doing this?" he demanded. Eliza's eerie glow lit the darkened attic. "Because I was never the monster, Samuel," she said. "You are the one who treated me like one. But now, it's time people saw you for what you truly are." Fear turned to horror as Samuel realized his downfall wasn't a result of his sister's supernatural powers, but his own decision to hide her, to bury the truth. He was no different from the other political manipulators he often criticized. Eliza remained in the attic, unseen and feared, but not unheard anymore. She was the haunting melody in the wind, the chilling frost on summer nights, and the flickering flames in the fireplace, reminding Samuel every day of his own horrifying deed. And as for Samuel, he lived in fear, his illustrious political career reduced to whispers and scandalous tales. He was forever haunted by his weird sister in the attic, a chilling testament to the horror that can be born not from the supernatural, but from fear, ignorance, and the desire for power.
Thank you for watching, and remember, the darkness awaits. Until our paths cross again, stay fearful and stay subscribed.